Hey everyone. Okay, so right out of the gate, Chapter 71 is fairly standard fare, with Taro coming in, doing his usual thing, and pretty handily defeating Gaku. Although, once again, the creativity at which Taro was battling him back was again so fun to witness, like using the plane's wheels as a weapon, or even my personal favorite, buckling Shania into the pilot seat so Gaku couldn't move and couldn't utilize him using the VR. Like that especially is a very simple tactic by all standards, but because it's Taro, it not only plays very well into him being able to use anything as a weapon, but you also get the vibe that even though he just arrived, he was paying attention. Oh, like he understood. He understood Shania wasn't the one in the proverbial driver's seat, so to speak. And I will say this too. I also like how Gaku's was no slouch in this fight either. Like for as much as Taro was tossing him around, Gaku landed a few hits as well on him. And in saying that, I really like the one thing that said, one moment I really liked in this chapter was when Taro told Shin to take the others and put some distance between them in the fight. And I do like how Taro prefaced that by saying he trusted Shin to protect them. Like it's kind of an acknowledgement on Taro's part that Shin has improved. Now, it's one thing for Taro to acknowledge that, but as viewers, it's a bigger question of how those results are going to translate into future encounters. That's kind of the big question. Like, it's one thing for Taro to say that, but how are the results going to actually pan out in future fights and whatnot, where Taro is going to need Shin, need Shin to be his backup kind of thing. In saying that, this chapter did kind of pose an interesting question for me, though through basically Gaku's acknowledgement of how much of a threat Taro is, which is that, like I said, in typical Taro fashion, he came in, cleaned up shop, and defeated Gaku. Pretty much business as usual. But my question is, how much longer can Taro keep this up? And I ask that because ever since he was introduced, Uzuki has made his ambitions clear. Find any means necessary to develop their abilities as assassins. Now, obviously, the biggest parallel that's been drawn in a lot of Taro's encounters with X or those associated with him is basically the natural skill trumping any science and technology. That's basically been the basic through line of a lot of Taro's fights. But the thing is, how much longer will that be the case? Because if this whole endeavor has proven anything to me, it's that while Taro might have triumphed this day, this does also feel like the closest that Uzuki has gotten so far in terms of pretty much matching Taro in strength. And the thing is, the more Taro fights, the more knowledge Uzuki can collect, and eventually Taro's gonna have that one fight where he'll have met his match. Like I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's hard to believe Uzuki would be looking at all these losses, all these fights that Taro's been in, and not thinking about ways to take Taro down. Like I know Uzuki's whole mission statement and goal is more the JAA and taking them out and taking them down, but it's like he has been keeping his eye on Taro and just how much of a threat he is. So it's like, yeah, how much longer can Taro keep this up before Uzuki throws something at him that's actually going to be a threat to him, is what I'm wanting to know. Now, moving on to Chapter 7. Now, that said, moving on to Chapter 72, though, and it figures the final chapter of this arc is where we get the big reveal that Prince Kanaguri is actually a double agent working for Uzuki. And as we see him in another assassin called Carolina Reaper, yeah, great name, forcefully enlisting Mafuyu and Nao. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly that gets resolved, if it'll be immediately in the next chapter, or if it's going to be a continuing plot thread that's a B plot in the next arc. I don't know, but it's like it should be interesting to see how that. I don't think Mafuyu and Nao are really going to want to go along with anything Uzuki has to say, though. And while talking about Nao, though, yeah, her reaction to realizing Taro Sakamoto has been in front of her this whole time, but is a pudgy fat man now, it was all hilarious, and just having that crisis of faith where she questions if she really is a true fan after mentally insulting Taro, like her whole mental breakdown during that was just hilarious. Just although, and just as equally hilarious though, is when we see the real Shania wake up from his little comatose sleep, where he just starts frantically wondering what's going on, which I will say was kind of a very intriguing and effective way to deliver exposition to the characters about Uzuki, and how this was always planned and doing it without any of it really feeling all that forced. Really, like it really kind of flowed very naturally. Where in that respect. But with that said, the chapter. But okay, with that said, this chapter also revealed to us the conversation between Akira and Taro and how that whole conversation went about Rion. And yeah, as we come to learn, Taro straight up lied to her, saying she'll meet up with her at the JCC. And I'm sorry, but I fucking hate this. I really fucking do. Like, I get why he lied, because the truth is probably a lot more gruesome than we think, and as far as an in-universe explanation, I guess you gotta come up with an excuse to drag out the truth for when the big reveal is made of what really happened to Rion, but for me, this just feels like such a contrived way to handle things. And honestly, the only thing that I know is going to make this better is knowing that the secrecy is going to blow up in Taro's face. And look, again, I get why he keeps it a secret, because Rion's death is very likely the one moment in Taro's life where he has nothing but regret. But again, it's one of those things where the longer he keeps it secret, the more problems it will cause. It will cause later down the line when Akira finds out for herself what happened. And adding to that is the complication of Shin and Tara's mission being a race against the clock now, as Uzuki has sent Kashima on a mission to erase all files linking Uzuki to being X. So yeah, with so much going on, like I can't help feel that the secrecy is getting to be just a little contrived and a little pointless. But maybe for someone like Taro, who's tried so hard to leave his past behind, maybe it needs to blow up in his face for him to come to terms with what happened in the past himself, because I think as much as I'm complaining about the whole thing being contrived, if there's one thing that has been made absolutely clear about Taro up to this point, is that the man has some serious every time, like when Rion was even brought up to begin with, it's very clear there's some deep-seated trauma, some deep-seated like some deep-rooted pain he never really got over. So I think, again, I understand it in the sense of all this needing to be something I think even Taro has to kind of come to terms with, something he has to deal with, just like when Rion is gonna find out about it. But simultaneously, again, just the whole like setup in itself just feels a little contrived. I'm sorry, but it does. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from Blue Sky, Analyst Control. Be sure to notification bell with the subscribe button, and just share everyone, guys. Dark Knight signing off. Later, everyone.